Welcome to our channel. Be sure to subscribe and leave a like so you won't miss more incredible stories brought to life through rare photographs and powerful history. German soldiers are seen setting buildings ablaze in the Warsaw Ghetto during the brutal suppression of the uprising in May 1943. This confrontation became one of the most intense and tragic episodes of World War II, where a determined resistance rose up against overwhelming Nazi forces. The ghetto, already ravaged by war and isolation, saw even more destruction as entire blocks were leveled, leaving few traces of what once was a vibrant community. Karen Rotscheffer, who would go on to win the Miss World crown in 1959, sits elegantly for a portrait by photographer Paul Huff. Representing the Netherlands, she made history as the first woman from her country to take home the title. Her poised appearance in this image reflects both the glamour and social significance of a time when international pageants were rising in cultural importance. Children with Down syndrome sit for a solemn photograph taken at the Schönbrunn Psychiatric Hospital near Dachau, Germany, in February 1934. During this era, many children with disabilities were placed into state-run institutions, often lacking proper care, support, or medical understanding. Places like this were supposed to offer protection, but instead, they reflected a broader system of neglect, misunderstanding, and in some cases, abuse. A young boy named Sivan Reiner, just 4 years old, smiles warmly in a studio portrait taken not long before he was deported during the Holocaust. He would be sent to a Nazi concentration camp in the years to follow, one of the many innocent lives swept up in the cruelty of war. His photograph remains one of the few traces of a life that was stolen too soon. An American soldier stands in the background as former prisoners at Dachau confront one of the camp's guards on April 29, 1945. Liberated just hours before, survivors wasted no time in identifying those responsible for brutal treatment inside the camp. The confrontation captured in this image is both emotional and intense, an unfiltered moment of reckoning between captor and captive. A striking photograph shows Irma Grace standing next to Joseph Kramer, two of the most infamous figures associated with Nazi prison camps. Gracie, only 22 at the time, was later tried and convicted for her involvement in crimes committed at Bergen-Belsen and Auschwitz. Known for her cruelty, she quickly became a symbol of the horrors perpetrated inside the camps, and her conviction in 1945 was among the first moments of justice served in the aftermath of genocide. In Canada, during the 1930s to 1950s, indigenous children were placed into church-run residential schools as part of a systemic effort to erase Native identity. These schools removed children from their families and communities, forcing them to abandon their languages, traditions, and beliefs. This photo captures a moment within that long, painful chapter, one that would leave generational scars for decades to come. On August 30th, 1963, a young black family, the Horace Bakers, moved into the Delmar Village neighborhood in Folcroft, Pennsylvania. Almost immediately, they were harassed by local boys who opposed their presence solely because of the color of their skin. The incident marked a powerful reminder that even after legal victories for civil rights, racism still ran deep in American neighborhoods. In a moment that would later be praised around the world, a black woman stands in front of a man with opposing extremist views during a protest in 1996. The man was at risk of being attacked by an angry crowd, but she stepped in, shielding him with her own body to prevent violence. Captured in the United States, this image became a lasting symbol of courage, humanity, and the ability to remain calm in the midst of conflict. In 1941, during a time of intense persecution, a Muslim woman in Sarajevo gently covers the yellow star of her Jewish neighbor with the veil she wears. It was a quiet but profound act of solidarity and defiance in a region where Nazi-aligned forces sought to divide communities through fear. In that simple gesture, she chose compassion over compliance, risking her own safety to protect someone else. Two brothers reunite on Christmas Eve in 1963 after being separated for years by the Berlin Wall. Their emotional meeting was part of a short-lived program, allowing limited family visits between East and West Berlin. Commuters in New York read newspapers on November 22nd, 1963, reacting to the shocking news of President John F. Kennedy's assassination. The stunned silence across public transit reflected the national grief that swept the country that night. Women of the American Old West pose in traditional 1887 attire in Custer County, Nebraska. Their portraits highlight the often overlooked role women played in shaping pioneer communities. Union veterans share stories with Boy Scouts at the 75th anniversary of the Battle of Gettysburg in 1938. Held in Pennsylvania, the event symbolized a bridge between generations, linking past war to future service. Harvey Cushing captures intense portraits of his patients undergoing brain surgery in the early 1900s. These photographs offered a rare glimpse into the dawn of modern neurosurgery. Japanese sailors land during the Siege of Tsingtao in 1914, a World War I battle fought in China. This joint Japanese-British operation marked one of the earliest military campaigns in Asia during the war. In Tehran, 1979, women take to the streets to protest the newly imposed mandatory veil after Iran's revolution. Their demonstrations reflected growing tension between personal freedoms and state control. Rare photographs from 1914 to 1918 show Austro-Hungarian soldiers during World War I. These images document daily life, uniforms, and battlefield scenes across various European fronts. Marn Smith unveils a sunbathing chair in the 1950s designed to reduce neck strain while tanning. Its unusual form became popular at beaches and in backyards for its ergonomic comfort. A steam locomotive is prepped for export at the port of Glasgow in 1952. These trains were symbols of British engineering and were shipped globally for decades. Photographer and model Bunny Yeager captures a self-portrait in the 1950s using a camera timer. A trailblazer in retro-style photography, she helped bring female photographers into the spotlight. In 1965, an indigenous community in Alaska plays a traditional game involving an animal hide trampoline. The custom, both for celebration and hunting observation, launches participants high into the air. Emperor Hirohito visits Disneyland in California during a 1975 diplomatic trip. His tour symbolized post-war reconciliation between Japan and the United States. A street vendor in Egypt sells mummies in 1865, a common practice during early archaeological tourism. Many ancient remains ended up in European museums or private collections. Around 1937, a coal miner in Northumberland dines with his wife after work, still covered in soot. The modest scene captures the everyday life of labourers during Britain's industrial age. A British World War I soldier displays protective gear including a steel helmet, slit goggles, and a gauntlet blade. These inventions aim to shield troops from deadly shrapnel and trench combat injuries. In 1906, Detroit, a frozen fountain forms dramatic icicles during a harsh winter. Later colorized, the image shows the extremes of cold that transformed city landmarks. Due to a lack of pools, children in 1922 practiced swimming strokes on a schoolyard surface. This creative method helped teach basics without access to water. Canadian soldiers drill at a military camp in the 1920s during the post-World War I reorganization period. Training included marching, mock battles, and handling of standard-issue weapons. In 1985, freshmen at the Kazan Aviation Institute perform aerobics outdoors as part of student fitness programs. These public displays were common in Soviet-era schools to promote discipline and health. On March 19, 1921, President Warren G. Harding appears at an event for disabled World War I veterans. A man without legs moves on a wheeled board, a stark reminder of the long-term human cost of the war and the resilience of those who served. In 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson drives his amphicar into a lake, pretending to lose control to surprise his guests. The amphibious vehicle could travel on both land and water, reflecting Johnson's eccentric sense of humor and love for theatrics. Surfers in Santa Monica form a star shape with their oversized Mondo boards in 1935. The image celebrates the rising popularity of women's surfing during the golden age of California beach culture. The 1 millionth Pontiac Bonneville convertible is proudly displayed at the General Motors plant in Arlington in 1965. This sleek, stylish car represented the peak of American automotive design during that decade. In 1956, Elvis Presley poses next to his tiny Messerschmitt car in Memphis. The unusual vehicle turned heads just like its owner, and the photo was taken by Philip Harrington at the height of Presley's fame. Anita Ekberg was photographed in 1950, early in her career as a model and actress. Born in Sweden, she would later become world famous for her role in La Dolce Vita, a defining film of Italian cinema. Jean-Paul Sartre holds his cat during a relaxed moment in the 1960s. Known for his existential philosophy, Sartre also had a softer side, often captured away from the intense world of politics and writing. In 1940, a massive inflatable clown floats over Times Square during the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. These balloon spectacles became an iconic part of American holiday tradition. In 1960, a young Cassius Clay, later Muhammad Ali, strikes a confident pose after winning Olympic gold in Rome. At just 18 years old, his charisma and defiance were already legendary, foreshadowing the global impact he would soon have. The Canadian ice hockey team scores against the United States at the first Winter Olympics in Chamonix, France in 1924. Canada would go on to win the gold medal, solidifying its dominance in the sport. In 1908, a portrait was taken of Wei O, also known as Pretty Flower, a member of the Seneca Nation. The photo by J.L. Blessing is one of the many early attempts to document Native American culture. Members of the Blackfoot tribe are photographed in Glacier National Park, Montana, in 1913. Captured by Roland Reed, the image sought to portray indigenous life authentically before modernization erased many traditions. A woman from Zanzibar, in present-day Tanzania, poses in the 1890s wearing traditional attire. The photo highlights the region's status as a major East African trade hub, where Swahili culture and global influence is intertwined. In 1980, a Chinese delegation visits San Francisco as part of renewed diplomatic relations between the US and China. This visit followed the historic normalization of ties in 1979, marking a shift after decades of isolation. In 1929, a man near the Mexican border poses with a sign on his car that reads, "I am not a rum runner, do not shoot, I will stop." During Prohibition, messages like these were used in hopes of avoiding violent confrontations with law enforcement. The Red Hot Chili Peppers are photographed in 1989, during their breakout rise to international fame. Their raw energy and genre-blending sound would soon make them rock icons. In 1976, John Bedell Bokassa declares himself Emperor of the Central African Republic in a lavish ceremony. The coronation, modeled after Napoleon's, consumed nearly a third of the country's budget. A man smokes a hookah beside a veiled woman in 1870s Egypt. Clay pots and baskets around them suggest a market setting, offering a glimpse into everyday domestic life during the Ottoman period. Harrison Ford works as a carpenter in Los Angeles in 1970 before his acting career took off. He supported his family with skilled labor while auditioning for roles, eventually landing his breakout part in Star Wars. A driver demonstrates a dashboard-mounted coffee maker in 1950, an innovation aimed at increasing comfort during long road trips. It reflects the post-war obsession with automotive convenience. Ski sailing, a sport born in Austria, is shown in St. Moritz, Switzerland. Using a sail and skis, participants glided across snowy landscapes powered only by the wind. Portable one-pole seats from the 1950s offered a simple, collapsible way to sit while waiting in line or camping. Lightweight and practical, they became common at outdoor gatherings. A 1913 photo shows a student resting in a hammock during school recess. The peaceful moment captures how rest was valued in earlier education systems. Beachgoers gather at Asbury Park, New Jersey, around 1905, wearing formal clothing and holding umbrellas. Men, women, and children enjoyed the ocean air in an era before casual swimwear was widespread. A staircase designed by Leonardo da Vinci in 1516, located at the Château de Chambord in France, features a double helix structure. This ingenious design allows two people to ascend and descend without crossing paths. Between 1963 and 1965, a hydraulically powered robot is displayed in public demonstrations. It served as an experimental model during early exhibitions of automation and robotics. A mechanical spoon with a built-in fan is invented to cool soup before eating. This quirky yet practical utensil reflected mid-century interest in gadget-based dining. El Chispas, a robot showcased in Spain in 1953, was powered by simple circuits and controlled by radio. It became a symbol of post-war innovation and curiosity in science. In 1967, the Unimate robot serves coffee during a public demo. Originally built for assembly line work, Unimate was one of the first true industrial robots. Freddy Ford, a talking robot, is displayed at a fair in the 1950s. Designed to answer pre-programmed questions, it fascinated the public and represented early AI enthusiasm. Spectators packed the Panathenaic Stadium for the Athens Olympics in 1896, the first games of the modern era. Athletes from 14 nations competed, reviving the ancient tradition on a global stage. At the 1960 Rome Olympics, a protest erupts after Taiwan is forced to compete under the name Formosa. The controversy highlighted growing political tension within the global sports arena. In 1955, a lamplighter in Glasgow lights a gas street lamp, a job slowly disappearing with the rise of electricity. Workers like him once covered entire city blocks by foot each night. In early 1900s Austria, peasants harvest hay using oxen on steep terrain. Manual labor and animal power were the norm in rural alpine farming communities. A woman spins cotton by hand in the early 20th century, part of home-based textile production. Skills like these were passed down through generations in rural households. A cheeky postcard titled The Naughty One is published in the 1920s. Light-hearted and suggestive, it was part of a popular collectible trend during the interwar years. A machine designed to simulate horseback riding appears in the early 1900s. By vibrating the body, it claimed to improve circulation, balance, and overall health, an early form of exercise therapy. Mao Zedong makes his final public appearance on May 27, 1976, just months before his death. As the founding leader of the People's Republic of China, Mao remained a towering figure in 20th century politics. The oldest known news photograph captures the arrest of a man in France in 1847. Taken with an early daguerreotype camera, it marked the beginning of using photography to document real-time events. Thanks for watching.